The moment someone disrespects you, it feels personal. Feels like an attack. But what if it is not about them at all? What if, in that instant, the situation is revealing something about you? Disrespect is rarely just an insult. It is a test of emotional hierarchy. It measures who controls themselves and who can be controlled. Few men understand what is really happening in that moment. They see the words. They feel the sting. They react. And in reacting, they reveal their position. When someone provokes you, they are not only challenging your status. They are probing your impulse control. If your emotions can be triggered publicly, your authority shifts immediately. The reaction becomes the story, not the insult. Powerful people recognize this dynamic. They understand that disrespect is information. It exposes intention. It reveals insecurity. And more importantly, it offers a choice. React and surrender composure, or remain steady and redefine the hierarchy. The paradox is simple. The insult may be about them, but your response is always about you. To understand why disrespect strikes so deeply, you have to understand the structure of identity. Most men do not simply hear an insult. They experience it as a threat to who they believe they are. Reputation, competence, masculinity, social standing, these are not abstract ideas. They are woven into self-concept. When someone challenges them, the nervous system interprets it as danger. At a biological level, the amygdala activates almost instantly. This region of the brain does not distinguish between physical threat and social threat. Public humiliation or dismissal triggers similar stress responses as physical confrontation. Heart rate rises. Muscles tighten. Attention narrows. The body prepares to defend status. Evolutionary psychology explains why. In ancestral environments, social rejection could mean loss of protection, resources, or mating opportunities. Status competition was survival. The instinct to respond quickly to disrespect is ancient. But there is a difference between primitive reaction and conscious response. The primitive impulse seeks immediate restoration of dominance. It demands retaliation. The conscious mind, however, has the capacity to observe before acting. That capacity determines hierarchy. Jung would describe this vulnerability as part of the shadow, the hidden fear of being diminished, exposed, or made irrelevant. When someone disrespects you, they touch that concealed insecurity. The intensity of your reaction often reflects the depth of that fear. Understanding this removes shame. Feeling the surge is human, but remaining governed by it is optional. The powerful man does not deny the reaction. He contains it. And in that containment, control begins. The impulse to respond immediately feels powerful. It feels decisive, assertive, even dominant. But in most cases, it is the opposite. Immediate reaction is often the surrender of leverage. When you react in the moment, you leak emotion. Your tone sharpens. Your posture shifts. Your words become less measured. Observers register this instantly. Even if you believe you are defending your status, you are revealing agitation. And agitation signals disturbance. Perception is fragile. Once others see that your emotions can be provoked publicly, control over the narrative begins to slip. The situation is no longer about the original insult. It becomes about your composure. Reputation, especially in competitive environments, depends less on what you say and more on how you carry tension. There is another cost. Predictability. If people learn that certain words trigger you, they gain influence over your behavior. They can provoke, distract, and destabilize you with minimal effort. A reactive man is easy to read. And what is easy to read is easy to manipulate. Contrast this with the controlled strategist. He pauses. He absorbs the remark. He evaluates intention before responding. He understands that power is not demonstrated through speed, but through restraint. Machiavelli warned that a leader must never reveal emotional disturbance publicly. Once your inner turbulence is visible, authority weakens. Composure, even under insult, communicates hierarchy. Reaction feels strong in the moment, but long-term power belongs to those who refuse to be governed by impulse. Power under provocation is not measured by volume. It is measured by regulation. When tension rises and you remain composed, something subtle but decisive happens in the room. Emotional regulation becomes a dominance signal. It communicates that your internal state is not governed by external stimuli. Most men never realize how quickly hierarchy shifts in these moments. When someone insults you and you respond with visible agitation, observers unconsciously register instability. But when the same insult is met with stillness, the perception changes instantly. Calmness under pressure suggests depth, control, and psychological distance. The power of pause is underestimated. A brief silence before responding does more than buy time. It repositions authority. It signals that you are not reacting, you are deciding. In social dynamics, the one who decides when and how to respond controls the frame. Controlled ambiguity further strengthens this position. If your reaction is unreadable, others are forced to interpret. They begin calculating. They question whether the insult landed at all. Ambiguity generates caution, and caution shifts power. Contrast this with loud defense. The defensive man rushes to clarify, justify, or counterattack. His urgency reveals emotional investment. The silent recalibration of the strategist does the opposite. He listens, adjusts internally, and responds only if response serves a purpose. Few men understand that composure is not passive. It is active restraint. It is the deliberate management of impulse. Over time, this habit builds reputation. People hesitate before testing those who are difficult to unsettle. Calmness is not weakness. It is the visible form of self-governance. And self-governance is the foundation of enduring power. Ego-based retaliation feels satisfying in the moment. It offers a brief surge of relief, a sense of restored status. But what appears powerful often initiates a chain reaction that weakens position over time. At the individual level, retaliation creates escalation cycles. A sharp response invites another. Pride demands consistency. What began as a minor insult transforms into ongoing tension. Energy that could be directed toward meaningful pursuits is spent maintaining conflict. Over time, reputation erodes quietly. The man known for reacting quickly becomes associated with volatility rather than stability. There is also the hidden drain. Emotional outbursts consume cognitive resources. The nervous system remains activated long after the exchange ends. Focus diminishes. Judgment narrows. What felt like dominance becomes depletion. At the identity level, repeated retaliation signals fragile masculinity. If every perceived slight demands defense, strength becomes dependent on external validation. The need to constantly reassert status suggests insecurity beneath the surface. True confidence does not require constant proof. On a broader scale, ego-driven reaction feeds outrage culture. Public provocation thrives on predictable responses. Media cycles amplify conflict because reaction generates attention. Those who can be provoked can be directed. If you are easily provoked, you are easily controlled. Retaliation may feel like power, but it often transfers leverage to the one who initiated the insult. Long-term authority belongs to those who refuse to let ego dictate strategy. Pause for a moment and examine your own reactions. When was the last time someone's words controlled your emotions? Not influenced them, controlled them. When did an insult shift your mood, your posture, your tone for the rest of the day? Be honest with yourself. Do you react to defend principle or to defend ego? There is a difference. Principle is stable. Ego is fragile. Principle requires boundaries. Ego demands applause. What would change if you refused to react immediately? If, instead of proving yourself in the moment, you allowed silence to carry your authority? Would the insult lose its power? Or would it reveal something uncomfortable about your need to respond? Few men are willing to examine their emotional fragility honestly. It is easier to blame the provoker than to question the trigger. But strength begins with ownership. If your emotions are easily moved, your stability is negotiable. Over the coming days, observe yourself. Notice the impulse to respond sharply. Notice the tightening in your chest. Do not suppress it. Study it. Awareness is the beginning of discipline. and discipline is the beginning of sovereignty. Awareness alone does not create power. It creates potential. The turning point arrives when you decide that your reactions will no longer be automatic. Non-reaction is often mistaken for weakness. In reality, it is leverage. When you refuse to respond impulsively, you interrupt the expected script. The person who provokes you anticipates friction. They anticipate defense. When none comes, the dynamic shifts. The burden of momentum returns to them. Strategic silence is not avoidance. It is observation. Create space to evaluate intention. Is the disrespect casual, manipulative, or malicious? Is it worth engagement at all? Silence allows clarity before commitment. Delayed response strengthens position further. Time alters perception. What feels urgent in the moment often loses significance with distance. A response given after reflection carries more precision and less emotional residue. Controlled escalation, when necessary, is different from retaliation. It is measured. It addresses boundaries without theatrics. Corrects without chaos. The reactive man loses frame. His identity becomes entangled with the insult. He fights to restore dignity and often reveals insecurity instead. The strategic man holds frame. His composure communicates that his position is not negotiable. Strength is not displayed in speed. It is demonstrated in restraint. When you choose your response deliberately, you reclaim authority over the interaction and over yourself. Understanding the psychology is only the beginning. Authority is built through repetition. The first technique is the pause. When disrespected, do nothing for a few seconds. Maintain eye contact. Breathe slowly. This interrupts the automatic surge and signals composure. The pause alone often shifts the hierarchy. Next is neutral facial control. Your expression communicates before your words do. Avoid visible irritation. Avoid forced smiles. A steady, unreadable face creates ambiguity. Ambiguity generates caution. Practice verbal minimalism. Not every insult deserves a speech. Short, controlled responses preserve leverage. Noted. We'll see. That's your view. Precision maintains dignity without escalating tension. Reframing insults is another tool. If someone questions your competence, respond with curiosity rather than defensiveness. What specifically concerns you? This shifts pressure back to them and exposes whether the remark had substance or was merely provocation. Strategic disengagement is often the strongest move. If disrespect is petty and attention-seeking, withdrawing denies the reward of reaction. Power does not entertain trivial challenges. However, there is a distinction between petty disrespect and boundary violation. Petty remarks test ego. Boundary violations threaten principle or safety. The latter requires response, calm, direct, and firm. Measured correction reinforces authority without chaos. Power chooses battles carefully. It does not respond to every slight. It responds when response serves structure. Mastery here is not dramatic. It is consistent. Over time, people learn what unsettles you and what does not. When they discover that you are difficult to provoke, tests decrease. Respect grows quietly. Control in small moments builds authority in larger ones. Authority is rarely built in a single exchange. Compounds quietly over time. Each moment of composure becomes part of a larger pattern. When others observe that you remain steady under pressure, they begin to assign weight to your presence. Calmness builds gravity. People sense stability even if they cannot articulate why. The man who does not react impulsively appears centered. Over weeks and months, this consistency reshapes perception. You are no longer seen as reactive but deliberate. Reputation for composure spreads subtly. In professional settings, word travels about who handles conflict with restraint. In social environments, patterns become known. Those who are difficult to provoke are tested less frequently. Others calculate risk before challenging someone who does not give emotional reactions freely. Few men are patient enough to let authority compound. The temptation of short-term ego satisfaction is strong. A sharp comeback feels victorious. But dominance of presence is not achieved through isolated wins. It emerges from sustained discipline. Short-term validation fades quickly. Long-term stability builds influence. The difference lies in patience. When you consistently choose restraint over reaction, your identity strengthens. Authority becomes less about what you say and more about how you carry yourself. Power matures through repetition, not display. Over time, calmness becomes reputation. And reputation becomes. We return to the beginning. Disrespect was never truly about the insult. It was about your response. Words are temporary. Reaction defines hierarchy. The man who cannot be baited understands this. He recognizes provocation as information, not instruction. He feels the impulse rise, but he does not obey it. Silence becomes a choice, not a weakness. In that choice, control remains his. He chooses when to speak and when to remain still. He understands that perception is shaped less by argument and more by composure. By refusing to react impulsively, he controls the frame. Others begin adjusting to him rather than the other way around. Such a man is difficult to manipulate because his emotions are not easily accessed. He is difficult to destabilize because his identity does not depend on constant validation. He is difficult to dominate because he does not surrender authority through impulse. This is not about suppressing emotion. It is about mastering it. It is about deciding that no external remark will dictate your internal state without permission. The next time you are disrespected, observe yourself. Notice the surge. Notice the instinct to respond. Then choose deliberately. In that pause lies the difference between reaction and sovereignty. Strength does not need to prove itself. It reveals itself in restraint. Beyond the struggle, where discipline replaces impulse and clarity replaces chaos.